Bishop Samuel Mensah is the president of the Full Gospel Church International, and he's here with me. We're talking about leadership, and we just veered off when it got to the point where he was talking about the 7 giants that are enemies against us. So, Bishop, yeah.
Thanks. These 7 global enemy giants are affecting the continent of Africa, and Ghana is not an exception. Ghana is still battling with hunger. People are hungry. You have illiteracy, high rate of illiteracy. Poverty is literally on the increase. Pandemic disease. Why should common cholera kill people in this part of our world in the 21st century? It doesn't make any sense. As a matter of fact, for any African country, for people to die from filth and cholera, it's a disgrace and embarrassment to all leaders, right from district chief executives to the presidency.
Yeah.
It's an embarrassment.
There was a feature on BBC 2 days ago, and he had to talk about the fact that we had lost the fight against malaria.
Look at that. So these are common enemy that is fighting on. But the developed nations have dealt with all these enemy giants, except the 2. But in Africa, all these 7 is still staring up against us.
How do we identify a leader for Ghana? How do we identify a set of leaders for Ghana? How do the people know that this person is the most ideal person, most efficient person to run the race for me?
Well, first of all, again, the best friend of a leader is vision. What vision is the leader bringing? What kind of vision? You see, vision is that which will bring everybody together. Vision is that which will fuel, is the fuel that drives leaders. So the starting point is that what kind of vision is the leader having?
Sorry, Bishop.
Yes.
How would the follower, so to speak, know that this vision is good for me or not? If I am not educated, if I am not literate, if I'm not liberated, if I'm not exposed as a people.
It is the skill of leadership to bring everybody, whether educated or uneducated.
Right.
So you see, in the days of the Babylonian situation, when they said, let us come together. They had a vision to build a city that will have its tower reaches to the heavens.
Yeah.
Okay. The people, they cast the vision. Everybody came on board. And they said, this is what we want to build. So the ability to bring everybody on board, that will tell you your competence of leadership.
Okay.
So that is very key. If a leader is is providing leadership, and yet he's only just providing leadership for a group of people, remember, no government over the years have won massively with about 70% majority. It's almost close to 52, 40 something.
Yeah.
So that should tell you we are already a divided nation. We need a leader that can unite everybody.
Okay.
And we need leaders who, when they come on the scene, they don't keep blaming the previous government for the problems they have inherited.
Okay, because you said a leader does not blame. You solve problems.
A leader solve problems.
Okay.
During your first year, you can hold your predecessor responsible. But after 1 year, for goodness sake, if you hear any politician, whether now or tomorrow, blaming the previous government for the problems they have inherited, tell that person he is a poor leader.
Okay.
Because leaders don't blame the previous, generation for the problems they've inherited.
Right.
Their job is to solve the problem and take the people to the next destination.
Okay.
That is the job of leaders.
Right.
So they must come up and have the vision to drive the people.
Okay.
They must also have the ability to rally everybody to support the vision.
Yeah.
For example, this vision of a free SHS is a great idea. But you see, a segment of the people have been disconnected. You need to get all stakeholders on board.
Right.
You hear a lot of stakeholders saying, listen, a middle class are saying, look, we can pay our school fees. Our economy cannot sustain this novelty. Therefore, do targeting. Get those who can pay, provide them with a free education. Let those who can pay be able to support and pay something. I think government should have a listening ear.
Right.
But perhaps government can be thinking that, well, you know what, if we bow to this pressure, it may defeat our original.
Okay.
But definitely, our economy cannot sustain this novelty. Therefore, there are people who want to buy, who want to contribute and pay for now. That is part of engaging national debate. That this is a novelty. How do we bring everybody on board so that we can define the process of achieving this goal?
Okay.
is still the skill of leadership.
All right.
Okay, both at the educational level and at the presidential level and at every level. And so you need that vision that will drive the people. You need to empower the people to say, listen, it's doable, it's possible, that can be done.
So after empowering the people, what next? Because empowering means you sharing your vision with the people and people buying into that idea. What next?
No, after empowering the people, you see, people must also be part of the process and contributing. In the story of the Tower of the Babel, everybody contributed. People were involved. So getting involved in nation building is very critical. The citizens must move from being apathy. You know, President Akufo-Addo said, be a citizen and not a spectator.
Right.
Ghanaian society is a laid-back society. We are really not actively involved in moving our country forward. Most of our people are sitting down on the fence and thinking that just a group of people will have to drive the nation. So getting everybody on board is, it is said, if you want to test the temperature of a room, put the thermometer under the armpit of the leader. The reading will determine the temperature. So if the nation, people will come together, check the temperature of the leader.
Okay.
Because it is the leader's chemistry and ability that will attract the people.
So for us as a developing country, when you say we should all get on board, what do you mean? Because for certain people, politically, they might be thinking that get on board means everybody must be given a certain position.
No.
That's what we term as job for the boys.
No, get on board.
What do we do? Yeah.
For example, if I were running the country like Ghana, okay, we have brilliant economists who are in our country. We are battling with how do we really rake in so much money? How can 70% of our income only sustain just about 1 million people in the country? And then how can you develop our country with the rest of the 30%? Definitely it's not going to be possible.
It's impossible.
So if I'm a president running the country, I will bring all great men and women who have the skills in economies and accounts and finance, bring them together.
But that is what they say.
Regardless of their political party. You can, regardless, see, that is why leadership makes the difference. Regardless of their political party, to say, listen, we have an issue. Every government is struggling about income generation and mobilization of resources. Now, this is not about party, it's about Ghana. How do we now solve this problem? Bring everybody on board. Let's have a debate. Then, at the end of the day, we can find solution. Because there are brilliant people who can create and provide this magic.
Is it not easier said than done, Bishop, that you say bring everybody on board? Because your political party campaigned, people spoke, people paid and supported you to come into power. Now you're telling me that those who messed up the economy that have been put out, I should bring people from that stock to come and support us?
We are not saying bring them those who were one time providing leadership.
Right, okay.
They may be in their own businesses, they may be somewhere, but perhaps they may be sympathetic towards that party.
Right.
So you can still bring everybody. Not necessarily those who were in government at that time. But we are talking about people who have the technical skills and the knowledge. Even though you may perceive them to be sympathetic towards the other political party, it doesn't matter. All that we want is their technical knowledge.
So you're saying that we should harness the technical knowledge and energies of all those who can practically support.
Exactly. The human capital is key.
Okay. So from there, then where do we move? Or what would you do next? After you've shared your vision, they bought into it, now you've brought all people who have the professional expertise into the fray. What next?
If you bring them together and then they provide some direction as to what to do, your job now is to give the vision the legs and the wings to fly, by getting competent people to drive the vision, to make it happen, despite any obstacles. And then you hold your people accountable. Give them timelines and deadlines as to how when they can get things done. So that is the job of the president or the leader, and ensuring that each sector of the economy, each minister is driving that vision and making it work, and not providing excuses for things not being done. You understand that? And that is what has to be done. I will give you a typical example of the motorway. Now, look, it's almost about 45 years when this motorway was put together by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Since Kwame Nkrumah, no government after Kwame Nkrumah has been able to expand the motorway. No government has been able to add value in terms of even expansion. Even the common parchment we are doing, what they are using bitumen instead of concrete.
Yeah.
So that should tell no government has been able to do something beyond the value addition on the motorway. It's so sad.
Even the traffic lights on the motorway
it's so sad.
not working.
And yet, every day, they rake in over 30,000 Ghana cedis.
Yeah.
So people have no excuse for us to have the kind of deplorable state of the motorway. There is no excuse for any minister to provide excuses as to why we find ourselves in. You know, there is so much indiscipline. If you drive through the motorway, you would see shelters, you know, illegal structures all over. Do we have laws? Do we have people? The police job is to enforce laws. You know, leadership is not a title. It's not a crown you have on your head. It's about making sure things work. Institutions must be empowered enough to get things done.
Right.
And so if we don't empower institutions to make them independent, we can still have problems. As a matter of fact, unfortunately, Patrice, the major problem we have in Ghana is our constitution.
Why do you say so?
Our constitution has given too much power to one man called the president.
Okay.
So he appoints almost virtually everybody on various boards of organizations. He appoints the IGP. He puts together the police commission, you know, the police council. So naturally, any police officer would find himself more loyal to a government than the state.
How do we get ourselves or win ourselves off the 1992? And I say 1992 because it was done in 1992. Yes. How do we win ourselves off that thing? If we have people like you have your peers, you have people who reason like you and think like you. Have you put together anything to say that let's review some of these things in the Constitution?
We have suggested some things, but I think we need to have organized groups now, organized society, civil society, now to mount pressure on government.
How soon, Bishop?
Well, I think it should have taken place from yesterday.
Yes.
So that means that we should start the process. Until we do that, we will struggle with our governance system. Our constitution is now a hindrance to our development. And therefore, we should tackle it from the root. I'm sure Nana Akufo-Addo knows it very well. The Speaker of Parliament at a point said that there are certain things they will have to restructure. But you see, sometimes when people come into office, into political office, then they forget because it is to their advantage. But if you want to think about the nation first, then you have to deal and tackle our constitution. And I think civil society should start putting pressure on government that let's go back and deal with our constitution, strengthen institutions. You know, Obama one time said, we don't need strong men, we need strong institutions. These strong institutions can have its power from our constitution. Unfortunately, our constitution has not empowered the institutions. So the police institution has not been empowered enough. It has a government influence, too much of it. Therefore, it finds it difficult to really get things done. That is why you can have a ruling government having its, you know, Zuka boys and what have you, to misbehave, and sometimes the police is helpless.
Right.
Because of the problems of our constitution.
What can the people do to ensure that the politician who is so entrenched in their position does not affect them negatively? What can a people do?
Society should rally now. We must have organized society like TUC, you know, civil society. Everybody should come together. If the government will not listen, they should go to the street and start demonstrating that we need to revise our constitution because it is the hindrance to our development. And therefore, the more we put pressure on our parliamentarians, the more we will demand that they should go there and start the process. And that if your MP will not listen to you, vote him out during the next, the next general election.
But doesn't that just put us in a situation of, I don't want to say crossword puzzle, but musical chair? So person A goes, person B comes. Person A goes, person B comes. So NDC come, they misbehave, you take them out, bring NPP. NPP come, they misbehave, take them out, bring NDC that used to misbehave back into the seat. They come, they also misbehave. So it's like politicians are comfortable. It's either you guys go in or we go in. So they don't care.
Some are now calling for, you see, these 7 global enemies is beyond NDC and NPP, Patrice.
Right.
It's about everybody coming together and solving this problem. So it is probably now time we should start thinking about a third force. A third force that is thinking about Ghana, a third force that is patriotic to Ghana, a third force that is thinking about the next generation and not about the next election. You need true leaders who are not thinking about the next elections, but the next generation. Leaders who will be able to take difficult decisions that will benefit the next generation and not about the next elections. I think there might be the time for a third force beyond NPP, NDC.
Right.
If that force must be about Ghana. They are patriotic. They are citizens and not spectators. They are ready to die for the country, and they are ready to leave a lasting legacy for the sake of the
Bishop,
next
do we
generation.
need to develop a grooming school for leadership? Should we have a school for governance and leadership only? Just so people are trained, like the princes are trained in the UK. When you go, everybody knows that this is the trait of a prince. This is the trait of a princess. This is somebody who's going to go into leadership. Do we have such in Ghana, or should we have it?
We should. Well, Gimpa is one major school known in the country for governance and leadership. But I think Gimpa can expand it more. However, this training of institutions training leaders and what have you, we can start from class 1. Okay, we can start from KG, class 1. Unfortunately, there's something wrong with our educational system too. But we can start from the process of training leaders from that level up to university. You see, because the leaders we have now, Patrice, in our country, our political leaders are products of our university. If they can't solve the problems of our country, then there is something wrong with the education we are offering our people.
What do we do?
So we must go back and redefine the kind of education we are offering.
Who is supposed to do so, Bishop?
Well, the Minister of Education should be able to table it. Stakeholders should be able to talk about it. We are producing students chew, pour, pass, and forget. Who can't think? Who can't solve problems? Who can't get things done? They become politicians, and they are there, and they don't know what to do. And they will tell you when they are confronted with a problem, well, I'm waiting for my minister to instruct me.
But the minister,
then the minister will also say, I'm also waiting for the president to instruct me. Everybody is waiting for somebody to instruct, because nobody has been equipped and been trained right from the school period as to thinking, strategic thinking, solving problems, thinking to find solutions, and trying to solve problems. We haven't been trained. Our educational system never trained us into solving problems. Okay? So the problem too has to do with our educational system.
Right.
When you know this is the kind of nation you want to build, then you can call all the VCs in the country, put all the stakeholders and to say, listen, let us redefine the kind of education we are having now. The kind of education where it is chew, pour, pass, and forget is not helping, hasn't helped us. For example, if you know the vision you want to have, a nation beyond AIDS, now you will bring all these stakeholders of educationists together. What kind of program are we going to define that will meet our vision in the next 20 years? What kind of a crop of students do we want to churn out so that in the next 20 years they can meet the demands of that vision? You see, that vision would demand a restructuring of every sector of our economy.
Bishop, take a good look at the Minister of Justice. It has to be a qualified lawyer.
Sure.
The Minister of Finance needs to be somebody who is into finance and banking or that kind of thing. But when it comes to education, which is the core, the key, and even health, we don't put people who have got that qualification in there. Because over the years, we haven't had a typical educationist manning our educational ministry. So for example, Napo, he's not an educationist.
Yeah, he's a doctor.
He's a doctor. Yeah. But he's handling the education sector. Not to say that he's bereft of ideas, but then his depth of knowledge in education could be flawed.
Fine. I don't need to have that technical skills to provide that leadership at that level. At that apex, you don't need to have that technical skills. You need the leadership skills to provide that kind of leadership. Okay? So because that leadership skills you have is that you will not bring the technical people around you.
But you should understand it. Why is it that we don't need similar for the finance ministry? Why don't you just put Patrice there as finance minister? So he goes to call Ken Oforiatta, goes to call Kelly Gajepo, goes to call Obami Tete, then he would call Setekpe and sits them down. When they speak the language, I would not understand it. That is why the banks suffered when they had certain board chairmen who were not fully seized of the technicality of the place that they were handling. So if education is the key to the success of the state.
Yeah.
And at that level, we don't put an education, somebody who understands it through and through. This is what we'll be finding ourselves in.
In the previous government, we put an educationist there.
I don't think Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman was an educationist. I think she was just, she had served at the university level as a pro-vice chancellor and that kind of thing. So she got to that level, but I don't think her qualification was through a thoroughbred educationist.
Okay, well,
I don't think she was.
Okay, if from that point.
Yes, I don't think she was. She had just gone through like, I'm a chancellor, I'm a this, I'm a school provost, and blah, blah, blah. That's what she went through, but I don't think she was, unless I am wrong.
Okay. But so I understand where you are coming from, that the need to probably have a technical person. But again, I'm saying that at that apex, you know, when you get to even in a chief executive role, you don't necessarily need those technical skills. Those technical skills, you will need them at the first floor level, you know, and then the top management level. But the apex, you really don't need the technical skills. You will need those leadership skills. Your leadership skills will help you to rally the technical skills together as to what to do. But again, you need to understand the dynamics. You know, as to how things operate. Once you understand the dynamics, it helps you also. That is why orientation is also important when you come to that apex of your life. Okay, so I think that you probably still wouldn't need the technical skills of becoming an educationist before you can understand the dynamics of our educational system. But if I'm able to put people together, and then I'm asking, what kind of educational system do we want to have? An educational system that will just be, that will add theory and practice together. Then of course, we can redefine, restructure our system to be able to solve our problems of our society. Okay, so I think that is one of the things that perhaps, in my view, is very critical if we want to get this.
Okay, so let me read this one on Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman. She was born on 22nd November 1951 in Cape Coast, Ghana. Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman attended Anglican Girls Secondary School at Koforidua and Ebri Presby Girls School. She then had her secondary education at the Wesley Girls High School in Cape Coast from 64 to 71. She completed with a B education in English and French at the University of Cape Coast in 1977 and obtained her master's and doctorate degrees from York University in Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. Now, Professor Agyeman taught and worked at the University of Cape Coast starting in 1986. She has held various academic positions, including Head of Department of English, Dean of Faculty of Arts, Warden of Adichie Hall, Valco Trust Fund Postgraduate Hostel, and Dean of Graduate Studies and Research. From 1997, she has held a position of Academic Director of the School for International Training in History and Cultures of the African Diaspora. From 2008 to 2012, she was the university's Vice Chancellor. In March, she was one of the 5 scholars selected to deliver presentations during the 200th anniversary of the abolition of slavery at the United Nations, so and so forth. So, professional association. So, let me see. Academy of Arts and Science, University of Ghana, Association of the African Studies. So nothing here says tacitly that she is an educationist.
Okay, yeah.
Nothing here says tacitly that she is an educationist. So that is the information I have here on Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman.
Yeah, but I say, like I said, you really don't need that technical skills at that level. You need the leadership skills. You see, now, what would be the functions that a leader would need to bring to Ghana if we need to develop it for various sectors? You know, the first thing is, I said, the ability to develop the vision. Okay, have values. What kind of value? Where are you taking your department to? Where are you taking Ghana to? Look, if you go to Dubai today, Patrice, the moment you get to the airport and a taxi driver picks you, he can tell you in the next 15 years where Dubai would be. They can tell you. Everybody can tell you where Dubai is. Unfortunately...
Even in Rwanda, just Rwanda here.
Exactly.
Rwanda.
20 years ago, it was a failed state.
Exactly.
Today, Ghana is not close to them.
No.
Now, ask any university chancellor or vice chancellor, in the next 15 years, where would Ghana be? They have no clue. Ask any chief executive of any industry where Ghana would be in the next 15 years, they have no clue. Ask the religious leaders. So basically, if we as citizens, we have no clue in the next 15 years, 20 years where Ghana would be, it's a non-starter for all of us. That is why we need leaders who should be able to tell us in the next 20 years, where are we going? Unfortunately, we are grappling with politicians who are only thinking about the next election. So the problem has to do with the kind of leaders we must have. Number two, that they will be able to mobilize the people and to make development happen, which is important. Okay? They should mobilize the people. And number three, they should be able to have the skills to manage changes.
Skills to manage changes.
To manage the changes. That is important. Number four, they should have the ability to inspire others to carry on the vision. So that others can come on board. And number four, they should have the capacity to persuade people. It's doable. It's possible. So we can do it. They must also have the ability to develop other leaders.
Ability to develop other leaders.
To develop other leaders. You see, that is why you have the Mugabe situation in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
You know? And then you go to Cameroon, Paul Biya.
Yeah.
An old man, 85 years.
Yes.
Uganda, Museveni.
Yeah.
I mean, a great-grandfather who should be at home playing with his great-grandchildren. Yeah. And yet, sitting down there can't lead any nation, nothing. Because they tell you that they don't know who should take over from them. Because they have failed to groom leaders. Okay? So we need leaders at every area where you will groom people.
Okay. So developing other leaders
is
another
important.
point. Okay.
And then the ability to work with institutions.
Okay.
To respect institutions and work with the institutions.
All right.
All right? And then the next point is that the eighth is to take difficult decisions.
Take difficult decisions.
In solving the problems that will affect nation building.
Okay. I know you haven't finished, Bishop. Let me ask you this. If you met Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo today, what are the kind of things you would tell him? I would
tell him, Mr. President, your vision of Ghana Beyond It is brilliant. It's an audacious vision. It is doable, it's possible. But now form a vision consultative team who will be able now to break the vision into smaller units. If we want to build a nation beyond it, what should be our starting point? It can be probably 20 years from now. We may not achieve this in 5 years or 10 years, or perhaps beyond 10 years. So what do we have to put together? And then break them down into units, and then work towards that one by one. Have a vision consultative board who will now see to the implementation of those visions.
Okay, hold it there. So I believe in what you said. The starting point, it's fundamental. We need a starting point. Wouldn't it take us back to the point where we need to get all stakeholders involved? Then it goes to the National Development Planning Commission kind of situation where everybody, the ruling party says that, or those who are in opposition say that because you're ruling, you have put person A, person B, person C, because that was what was done with the National Development Planning Commission. All people from all facets of life were brought in there. Exactly. Some people abstained from it because they were thinking that they were not supposed to be there. So creating the starting point, who and who could possibly be there if it's not politicized again?
The National Development Planning Commission has put together a 40-year plan already. And this 40-year plan has segments of all the political parties' input. So for me, it is the most brilliant document for Nana Akufo-Addo. Okay? For him to start with. That definitely describes the vision of Ghana Beyond AIDS actually encapsulates all the principles of the National Development Planning Commission. It's there already. Okay? And therefore, what I would do is use that document. Which area do I now want to deal with and tackle? Now, give it a legal framework so that any political party that comes into office will definitely find a segment of the National Development Planning Commission in the name of Ghana Beyond Aid as to which area would they want to hold on.
What again would you tell Nana Addo? What again, as a leader? Because if you look at Rwanda, look at Dubai, look at Ghana, we are not a clean state. What would you tell him?
I'll tell the President Nana Akufo-Addo that
to fire the sanitation minister?
No, for the sanitation minister, it's something that if it's the new person who is there now, empower the person. For example, are you aware that Ghana has been voted the 7th dirtiest nation in the world? The 7th dirtiest nation. In the midst of 75% Christians. It doesn't make sense. Now we have 75% Christians, churches dotted all around the nation, yet the 7th dirtiest nation in the world. So I'll tell Nana Akufo-Addo, now listen, bring in stakeholders, religious leaders, charge them. Because the job of every pulpit is to bring social transformation also.
Right.
And to bring some changes. Apart from the spiritual component, let your pulpit be relevant. So I will charge the religious leaders.
Yeah.
I will charge the traditional leaders. What is it that we can do to deal with the filth in our country?
Okay.
Okay? And then empower them. Let it be like a commission that will drive this. I will also insist that I will bring stakeholders together and define the direction of the vision we want to have.
Okay.
I will also ensure to start the process of revising our constitution. I think the best legacy Nana Akufo-Addo can give to this country is to revise our constitution and then give empower to institutions and stakeholders so that we can build the kind of governance system we want to build in our country.
Thank you so very much, and I've been so excited and I've been so enabled this morning by Bishop Samuel Mensah, who is the president of the Full Gospel Church International. In your own small way, how do you think you can be a leader within that small corner? If you're able to lead in that small corner, it's going to transcend. But the most difficult thing is that the law enforcement agencies are not helping us. So you find something that is incongruent here, and you go and report, and the kind of response you get from them, it just kills your whole appetite. It just kills your whole initiative, your whole drive. So I think the police force, or they don't call them force anymore, they say the police service. Okay. So the police service must be up and doing. So that if I walk up to you and tell you that Bishop has done this, you quickly go there and deal with the matter. So I know that if anybody comes to the police, he can do that. Bishop, we are so grateful and we thank you so much. Where can we meet you if you want to hear you speak like this to us?
Well, you can get me at Tema Full Gospel Church International behind Obunu FM. Okay. And the telephone number is 030
yes
202260.
Okay.
And we train and we equip leaders at every level of our society.
Oh, please go to Parliament, okay? And go to all the ministries, okay? Please, don't let anybody hear that I told you to go to Parliament and the ministries to train leaders.
I hear your word of wisdom.
Thank you. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're looking at single parenting. Now, many people believe that there's a lot of pride in being a single parent. Is that a myth, or it is something that is a reality that we're supposed to live with? So, answers to these and more will be dealt with in the second hour of the show. Are you a single parent? What are you struggling with? What has been your mistake in the past that you want to advise other people not to follow? Now, let me tell you this, and this is so practical. I spoke to a young lady yesterday who is so disheveled when it comes to relationships. Her point is that she just wants to have 2 children by a man, and then she can have her life. So she has chosen to become a single parent, even before she thinks of marriage. She hasn't considered it. So she doesn't know what it holds for her to take such a decision. So this morning, all those matters will be dealt with. Is it appropriate? Is it right? Is it good to do that? I know I've signed you off, but single parenting, briefly, just 2 seconds.
Well, I think it's a challenge, you know, for parents. Yeah. And it's something that they need the support. They need to be encouraged because it's a daunting task.
Okay, daunting task. All answers and more will be here. Pastor Kelly is going to come in here, and the second person that Rosalind decided not to disclose, I'm not going to disclose. We'll see you on the flip side.
Breakfast Live. We'll be right back.